Did you take out a mortgage or refinance your mortgage for 2.5% or 3% a couple of years ago and now want or need to sell your home, but you can't afford the 7% mortgage rates that we have nowadays? If so, you may feel like you're wearing golden handcuffs. You got a terrific deal on your mortgage interest rates, and that's the golden part, but now you feel handcuffed to your current home and that low mortgage rate. If it's any consolation, a lot of people are in your shoes right now. They wisely bought or refinanced when rates were incredibly low, but now some change in circumstances like death, marriage, divorce, a new baby, change of employment means they would like to sell, but they may not be able to afford a new mortgage at today's much higher rates. So what's the answer? Well, my last suggestion I'm going to give may shock you. It's probably something you've never thought of doing, but it really can work for the right buyer. So listen up, I'll give you some ideas. As a realtor here in the Boise, Idaho area, I am hearing a lot of people complain that they feel like they're stuck with their current home because they have such a great rate on their current mortgage. And even if they can financially afford a mortgage at a higher rate, you have to admit there's a huge psychological block to taking on a new mortgage at 6.5% or 7%. And I agree, it just feels wrong. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. So what do? Well, the obvious answer is to wait it out if you can. That is, wait until mortgage rates drop to a more acceptable and affordable level. And I'm sure that's what a lot of people are doing right now. Many experts have landed on 5.5% as a rate that will work for the majority of borrowers. But the question, of course, is when will we see rates drop to 5.5%? Well, if I knew the answer to that question, I would definitely have my own show on HGTV. Nobody knows when rates will recede to 5.5% or thereabouts. It could be next year. It could be 5 years from now. Who knows? Maybe it'll be tomorrow, but I doubt it. I'm not even going to try to make a prediction. But yes, if you can wait, do so. And in the meantime, save like crazy for your next down payment. After all, when you refinanced your mortgage, you ended up with more discretionary money to spend or to save. So try to save as much as you can. Remember, the bigger your down payment, the smaller your mortgage payments will be, no matter what the interest rate may be at the time that you take out the new mortgage. If waiting it out isn't an option for you, then you may need to do one of two things. The first is to move to an area with cheaper home prices, which I know may not be an option for most or even many people. But hear me out. Here in Idaho, home prices have increased drastically over the last few years, but our homes are still cheaper than a similar home would be in many parts of the U.S., especially in the coastal cities on both the east and west coast. And the reverse is also true. There are states and cities where an Idahoan could buy 2 or 3 homes for the price of his Idaho home. So if you have the option of living anywhere in the U.S., you may be able to sell your current home and use the proceeds to buy a home in another state without the need for a mortgage at all. And boy, wouldn't that be a great feeling to have no mortgage whatsoever, or maybe just a tiny one. People who can work remotely may be especially interested in this option, since they can keep their current job while moving to a state with cheaper housing choices, and those states probably have cheaper cost of living. Now, if you can't wait for mortgage rates to hit 5.5% and you don't have the option of moving to a cheaper state like, say, Oklahoma, you may need to adjust your expectations for home features or even look at downsizing. The truth is, many of us have become accustomed to living in homes that are far fancier and much larger than what our parents lived in when we were kids. And we all have huge garages so crammed full of stuff that we never use that we can't even park our cars inside. So if you absolutely need to move and you can't afford a substantially higher mortgage, you might want to try looking at smaller and or simpler homes. Try checking out older homes or homes in a different part of town. The suburbs are usually cheaper than the city center. If you're here in the Boise area where I am, homes in adjoining Canyon County, like Nampa, Middleton, Caldwell, Melba, they are substantially cheaper than homes here in Ada County, that is Boise, Meridian, Eagle, and Star. A lot of people live in Canyon County and drive to Ada County to work every day, precisely because home prices are cheaper over in Nampa and Caldwell. And I know this is true in most metro areas around the country. I know this isn't the advice you wanted to hear, but if moving is a must, you may have to look at these options. You should definitely talk to a mortgage lender before making any decisions. A mortgage lender can educate you about your options, products like FHA loans, VA loans if you're a veteran. Many states have programs like our Idaho housing program that help with down payment assistance. A lender will be able to explain adjustable rate mortgages too. I'm not a huge fan of adjustable rate mortgages, but they can be helpful to certain well-educated consumers in certain circumstances. Please do your homework if you're thinking about this type of mortgage product. There's also a home equity conversion mortgage, also known as a reverse mortgage. These can work well for certain retirees who want to downsize or move to, say, a warmer state. But again, you've got to do your homework before making the commitment. You have to understand what you're doing. They're not for everyone. Finally, and I know this piece of advice is something most of you have never thought about before, consider buying a home that has a mother-in-law suite or a granny cottage that you can rent out either long-term or short-term, or even just a room in the home that you can rent to a roommate. Another possibility is to consider sharing a home with a family member who pays some rent. You can even buy a home with someone else. You don't have to be married to someone to buy a home together. It's a wild idea, but people with imagination and a strong need to sell their current home and move to a new one have been able to make it work. It may sound weird, but it does work for many people. There's more on this in the next video up here. And hey, don't give up on your dream of home ownership or getting a different home. I know that interest rates aren't great right now, but they're not going to stay that way forever. You'll be able to shake off those golden handcuffs eventually.